Money laundering through the City of London is now estimated at £100 billion a year, and the two clauses in the bill devoted to this are wholly inadequate to tackling this massive problem, which, illegal in itself, also hides and enables other crimes, perverts justice, distorts the economy, and is seriously undermining our reputation. I think this is an extraordinary development on the part of the government whip. I've been a member of this House for 13 years, and I've never been in a bill committee which, within 3 hours of sitting and half an hour of the second session, it's been suggested that we adjourn. We've got another 40 clauses, 2 more schedules, we've got 11 government amendments, we've got 36 opposition amendments to consider. These are all extremely important matters. I'm frankly astonished that the government thinks it's acceptable to behave in this way on these issues.
Should British law allow the government to target human rights abusers abroad with direct financial sanctions against them personally? This week, Labour attempted to add so-called Magnitsky amendments to the Sanctions and Anti-Money Laundering Bill, currently under detailed consideration in a Commons committee. Labour Shadow Minister Helen Goodman explains.
These would enable us to put sanctions on people who had been involved in gross human rights abuses. And this follows on from a really horrible case where a man called Magnitsky uncovered a big tax fraud in Russia, and he was kept in prison and tortured and eventually murdered. And so situations like that, not confined to Russia, other countries in the world are carrying on like this. We want to be able to sanction people. At second reading, a large number of Tory MPs spoke saying that they would support Magnitsky amendments. So the government is obviously riding for an extremely difficult and possibly unpleasant fall on these amendments. So
the government's actually opposing them?
Yes, and that's the thing that really astonishes me. I mean, we all say that we're in favour of human rights. Nobody thinks that it's okay to torture people to death. We want to take some action, and the government, for some reason that I simply don't understand, are resisting this.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know whether it's because the government are afraid of a debate on the Magnitsky amendments to Clause 1 or ashamed of their record on anti-money laundering. But were government whips to do this regularly, it would be possible to completely fillet the committee stage. I'm seeking your guidance, Mr. Speaker, as to what we can do about this. I don't know what has changed or why this government seems to be in a different place on it. I don't know whether it's because, for example, there are too many people influencing the government who keep their money in these offshore havens. For example, the member for North East Somerset, who was referred to in the Paradise Papers, because of a $680,000 payment he received when the BVI-based investment firm he worked for was bought by a Canadian bank. Everybody knows the member for North East Somerset is extremely rich and his finances are complex, but his stake in Somerset Capital is managed by subsidiaries in the tax havens of the Cayman Islands and Singapore? Or are we seeking to protect the interests of Philip May, who works for an investment management firm.
I think this is getting... On a point of order, Mr McCabe, I think these ad hominem attacks are highly inappropriate for this stage of the committee, or indeed any stage in our parliamentary proceedings.
I don't think that's, strictly speaking, a point of order at the moment. Perhaps we can just stick with the detail of the...
Well, Mr McCabe, I took, of course, I know what the rules of the House are, and I wrote to the member for North East Somerset yesterday, and I told him I would be mentioning him in the committee today, because I'm perfectly well aware of the rules of the House. The rules of the House, however, do not apply to people who are not members of the House, and the courtesies do not apply to them. And it's perfectly reasonable to tell the committee that Philip May works for an investment management firm, Capital Group, which reportedly used offshore registered funds to make investments in a Bermuda registered company. So the minister says, so what? And in that question, he reveals. Because another problem with this 90 or 100 billion pounds washing into the London property market, it's what it's doing to London property prices. And again, we discussed this at second reading. The fact is, we've now got people buying property, not to live in it, but just to stash their cash in, and we've got a lot of empty properties. And this makes property unaffordable. We're now at an all-time low, I think, for people in their 20s and 30s owning property. We've got rents shooting up, and we've got the number of children in temporary accommodation has gone up to 120,000. One can't help noticing that these 86,000 properties would comfortably house the families and children of these 120,000 children. So I really think that ministers need to get their skates on, and we need to see this on the timetable, which was promised by David Cameron.